everywhere. Because guess what? We've got someone real special in here. Someone real close to your cold ticker.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode here at One Up Gaming, where we bring you up news and game reviews of the latest games. I'm your host Alex, and I'm here with Akila, and today we are going to be talking about a new indie game that came out a couple weeks ago. We just barely finished this game. This one's called Mouse P.I for Hire, and I bet a lot of you guys have heard about this one. And yeah, we're going to give our thoughts and impressions about this game and go through a discussion between me and Akela. I'm really excited to talk about this game. Like, this game was I remember when it showed the trailers of this game a couple years ago. I was just stoked with the animation that they were showing and what they were trying to go for. I want to ask you, Akela, specifically, after playing this game, what are your thoughts overall?
Overall, I think it was a really, really fun game. I remember going into it, the beginning, being a little unsure. I agree that I thought the art style was fun and nostalgic, but at the same time, I kind of thought it was a little creepy because it's a little too much like old school cartoons, but almost dialed a little bit to the creepy end. That's my opinion. But I was a little concerned that certain parts of it wouldn't be very fun. And then when we first started the game, it seemed a little bland. But I'm glad to say that as we progressed, I was very much proven wrong about that initial opinion I had. And this game has turned out to be quite fun and entertaining and well worth the time and money.
Okay, that's a very interesting stand. I mean, I don't agree with the creepy part. I mean, your perspective is kind of an interesting one. It's the first time I hear that, actually. I think I can agree with your thought on how you thought the game would be all right. Like, they're just showing the art style, but the gameplay might just not be there. It might not click. Mostly with when they were showing this game, it didn't seem like it was doing anything special either. But I'll be honest, I kind of agree with you that at the beginning I was a little concerned that it was going to be a very bland, okay experience, nothing out of this world. But I'll be honest, I was really impressed when I saw how this game was evolving each level. The first level is just the usual tutorial level that, you just start to learn the mechanics, you start to do the platforming and learn the platforming, learn how to shoot, learn how to heal, interact with the world. And then it's just crazy to see how you just get better through the game once you reach the end or the last levels, and how complex those levels get and how crazy it all gets too with the enemies and how they're just shooting you all over the place and you're just moving all around the levels. And I was really impressed with how the evolution of each level, how it was scaling it up each time. That was really good for me. I really enjoyed that part of the game. What would be the part that stood out the most to you in terms of gameplay?
I think I would say the different weapons that you're allowed to use as you go through the game. Now, there is no requirement to use certain guns in certain parts, or like certain weapons that are considered more like efficient, you could say, against specific enemies. I know that in some boomer shooters, such as Doom, particularly I think Doom Eternal, that's like a big component, is learning how to properly use the weapons against the enemies. But that didn't bother me. I enjoyed being able to just switch out and use whatever I felt was the most fun in the moment. I definitely feel like there are a couple weapons that are a little bit weaker on the whole. But I felt that even with, me having a couple favorites and a couple least favorites, I was still switching them out a little bit more often than I think I expected. I kind of expected that once you got the James gun, which is basically a machine gun, right? Which that's my favorite type of gun in any shooter game because it's automatic and it shoots lots of bullets and it's easier when you're bad at aiming.
Yeah.
When like me. So I kind of assumed I would automatically always pick that one. But I found myself actually surprisingly picking other weapons throughout the game that I feel like I normally wouldn't, even though that weapon was still my favorite, right? The James gun. But they had a lot of fun and interesting ways to, take out the enemies. And they had the cute animations when they die. Well, cute, subjective, kind of creepy again still. But, just that was my favorite part, I think. Like, that's what stood out the most when I think about this game.
Yeah, which ones were your favorite weapons? I mean, you described the James gun already, but you talked about different ones too. I was like, which ones are your favorite ones?
I really enjoyed the one that shoots acid.
Yeah, okay.
Because that one, it's like you can shoot it once, it hits the enemy, and even though it takes a minute for them to, go down, I felt like I could just kind of blast it at everyone and I would be okay overall. I really enjoyed using...
I think this one's we agree with this one, the one you're going to mention right now, right?
I don't know. I was going to say the shotguns are pretty good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's... See, now I can't remember all the weapons.
There's the Hellraiser. Remember, that's the one that's the chainsaw.
Oh, yes, that one. That by far
That's my
was
favorite
the
one.
best weapon. I know that's basically, in my opinion, it was a Doom, callback because I remember using like a chainsaw, but that was fun to swing around and you just go ham on everybody. Yeah, so like throwing dynamite, that was even fun. Like I thought that would be kind of a nuisance, but I found that because they had a specific button you could use for that in between using your weapons, like I enjoyed like, shooting and then throwing a piece of dynamite if there were a couple extra enemies. So, that's what I think.
I kind of go along your lines too. I've really enjoyed going and shooting everything that was in my way. I really enjoy every time I play Doom. My favorite gun's always the shotgun because I feel like I can jump around and just blast their faces or just blast the enemies off. And I thought that was really, really fun to do in this game. This game can get vertical in the sense that you're not just on the room on the floor the whole time, just moving around the floor. You will also be jumping around and shooting at the same time every so often, and I really love that motion. Like that's one thing I've always done in Doom. It's like my favorite thing to do is jump, shoot, and with this game, you also have this mechanic with the button where you can like dash, which it was kind of disappointing. You mentioned this to me while we were playing that you can like jump and dash while you're in the air. I mean, I think that's kind of like maybe a nitpicky thing, but I kind of agree with you. Like it would have been really cool if you could just jump and dash, but that would have been kind of OP as well. A little too overpowered to do that. But overall, I really love every aspect of the gunplay and the platforming. I thought that was cool. Maybe we'll talk about every part of the gameplay here. What would you think about the level design?
I think there was a variety of levels that were interesting and boring. I think a lot of the locations in the game were very interesting, and I thought a lot of the places were fun to explore, but I did find that there were, on occasion, a couple levels that weren't as thrilling when it came to the combat. And that's what I mean. Like, I think most of the level design was stellar. and I enjoyed the platforming, like you said, in most of them and all of that. But there were just a couple times where I felt like it was a more cramped area and they threw a lot of enemies at you and it was hard to maneuver. And I feel like in these kinds of games, what makes it so fun is that power rush of being able to maneuver, like you said, quickly through the level and being able to just run and shoot down all the enemies and avoid all the bullets. But when you get kind of locked into a smaller, tighter area, it feels a little more frustrating. And that's why for me, like, I liked the idea of being able to like jump and dash, because you get cornered and then it's like jumping doesn't quite get you out of the way, but if you were able to jump dash out of the way, then you would be able to avoid that kind of thing, which for me, a lot of games have that in it. I feel like, you can combine those movements. That's what makes motion fluid. But I felt like there's a lot of variety, of levels. There were a lot of different ways to navigate them. I liked how you had to solve puzzles. You had to do certain things before you could get in through certain doors, right, and progress through the level. I love being able to find the secrets and, being clever about going different ways around was fun. So,
yep. I think the fun part, also, you didn't mention this, but the part that makes each level, or that makes it unique and makes that what I mentioned earlier, that scale up every other level, is how every so often they present to you a new mechanic for your platforming. And I think it's kind of cool, because sometimes you have the grapple hook, or you'll have the little helicopter with your tail, and sometimes you have to do that while you're also shooting, or like you do the double jump as well. And I really think that really helps with each level, like the level design. I feel like it makes it more complex and more interesting as we progress through the game. I did think it's really interesting, because I feel like there was a lot of levels where I thought there were parts that they stand out to me very well, but it's hard for me to recall like a specific level. Does that make sense? Or like a specific location.
yeah.
I don't know if you feel the same way as I do. I feel like I can think of the mansion. Like, we just barely did that part too. Like the mansion or the magician.
Yeah. No, I can recall like the locations. Now, can I specifically say,
Yeah.
oh yeah, this part of this place was incredible? No, but I don't think that diminishes, the quality there. I just think that just proves that like that's not the focus of the game. Obviously, it's there to support the part that's the focus, which is the first person shooting, right? And being able to maneuver quickly around the maps and being able to, do all of that. Wow. Again, not getting hit and killing enemies.
Yeah. It definitely is a game that it knows what it is. You know what I mean? Like, it's not trying to pretend to be anything that it isn't, or that's not showing you in trailers or in anything. Like, the core experience of this game is literally the gunplay and shooting around and fighting enemies. And I think one part that might be a little bit of a critique, I mentioned this to you earlier as well, is the enemy. Like, there's not much variety in enemies. You know what I mean? Like, I think you find like the same 3 or 4 mouses. You have the one with the shield, the one with the baton to hit you.
You have the fat guy.
You have the fat guy that goes and hits you and takes like half of your health. And you have the one that's a little bigger, but he's always trying to find a corner and runs away from you when you're trying to get close to him.
I mean, there's about 10 different types of enemies, but they basically just redress them as different things, right? So they just redress those same 10 as either cultists or the police or the mob or whoever else it may be.
Yeah.
Right. So it does end up feeling a little repetitive, because you're like, oh, like I already know what I'm going up against. I think there's only like one time that they had something slightly unique.
I think that's in the level.
And that's when you were in hell.
Yeah.
And they had those little floaty guys, but it's almost like they weren't that much different than the little shrews that flew by their tails.
Yeah.
In all honesty. So, like, even though they look different, they kind of, you played the same way against them. So, I mean, yeah, that's a little bit of a flaw. Another flaw or critique I would say is that especially in the first half of the game, they have way too many pickups. And I mean like health and ammo.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I felt like, and this was what's crazy, because by the end, and this is why my opinion changed, by the end, it actually felt challenging, the game. Like, and it felt like there wasn't enough of pickups going around half the time.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, it felt like, oh my gosh, there's 50 of these, and I didn't even lose 1 health. Like, what's the point? So I feel like some of the challenge was lost due to not having, less things to grab. So you didn't have to be as careful. You could just be very whatever.
Just whatever with your weapons and just waste the ammo. Yeah,
and
I can agree
and
with
if
that.
I died, because I did, it was just out of pure, stupidity. I wasn't doing anything like the right way. I was just not doing a good job.
It's really hard to die like in the first half of the game.
Yeah.
Like you don't feel the challenge as much. I think it's after you hit the maybe 3/4 of the game that you actually start feeling like, okay, I have to actually watch the enemies. I have to make sure that I'm killing them right,
Yeah.
and I can't just be playing around, because there's times when I would just play around. I would just grab the bazooka, and I killed myself once doing that during that when right at the end of the game, and I'll be honest, that was like a wake up call for me of like, okay, I guess this is getting more serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I wish it was just a little bit like that scaling of difficulty. I wish it stayed a little more difficult at the beginning. That's just me, because it's one of those things where it's like you get to that final boss, and that was a tough level. And I don't think I felt, at least when I tried doing it, I didn't feel very prepared for it. Like, because it's just up until that point, I didn't feel like there was anything that quite scaled that much. And I'm going to be honest, I feel like a lot of games do this, and maybe it's just a me thing, right? But I wish there was just a little bit more difficulty, especially towards the beginning, to help prepare you to, deal with the increases. But at the same time, it maybe, for some people that might be a good thing. Maybe they like a little bit more laid back of a game overall. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like the laid backness, like being a little too laid back at the beginning, it's what made it feel a little bland,
Yeah.
Because it's like, we'll talk about the story as well, and, all the things that you're going through as well while you're doing the gameplay, which is not, I don't feel like that's, taking the player or taking it was not dragging me into like, oh, this is getting really interesting with the gameplay, which the gameplay itself was already, I mean, it was getting more interesting as I was playing, but at the beginning it was a little hard to start like the first couple hours. It was hard to keep playing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get that. And I would never say to like people who are listening, like, oh yeah, this game is a tough one to get into. It doesn't actually take that long to get into it. It's still very fun and very exciting. It's just when you reach the end, looking back, you're like, yeah, that beginning felt a little eh. And I mean, it makes sense because, again, you don't have half of the platforming skills. You don't have the majority of the weapons. And especially a lot of the more funny or interesting ones to use.
Yeah.
Kind of show up later in the game. Like, you get this ice gun way late in the game. You only get to use it for like maybe 1 or 2 levels at the most, and that one's just exciting to be able to just freeze people. But I would never say that the diminished diminishes it. I don't want people to think that we're
Yeah. I'm sorry for saying that. It's just, I guess it was it's harder for me to come with a word or a way to paraphrase the way I felt at the beginning. That was like, it was just not hard to get into, but I don't know. I just don't know how to explain the feeling. I would just leave it at that. With what you mentioned with the difficulty spikes, it's kind of interesting because I kind of feel like we talked about how at the beginning it's not that hard, but then we hit the first boss, and I feel like I don't know if it was the first or the second boss. It was the one when we first go to the mansion, and there's this robot Betty Lynch, and I think there's like different stages with that robot, and I feel like maybe you give me your perspective because you mentioned like it was a little too easy at the beginning, but then I think that boss, maybe the difficulty spike from easy to that, was that a little too rough, you think, or was that like pretty good? Now looking back, now that you played the whole thing.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of a spike. Definitely half of the boss battles, I would say there were spikes in difficulty for sure, which makes sense. They need to be harder. I think that was definitely the second boss, though, because the first one's the opera lady.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
guess you're right.
And that one wasn't too hard, but...
Yeah, that one was pretty easy.
But I think, yeah, there were moments, though, throughout the game that were a little trickier. I would say that for sure.
Okay. What do you think overall about the bosses? Just the boss battles in general? I think they were great. I think the ones at the end are the ones that I can recall the most. That they were pretty good, pretty creative. Like they get really creative with the boss battles. I think that's the part that I enjoy the most. We mentioned how repetitive the enemies get. I think the boss battles are unique.
Yeah, I would say they're all super fun. I mean, the one that I remember the most, but that's because I struggled so bad, was when you're getting the rings and there's like the ghost ladies.
Oh,
and you had to shine the flashlight, and I was like getting so frustrated. I'm like, this is so dumb. I have to shoot this thing, and then I have to quickly switch to my flashlight for 5 seconds. I have to go back into shooting, and now she's got a stupid shield, and now I've got to jump around it. But that's what makes it fun.
Yeah,
that frustration, and it's not so frustrating that you're like angry and want to quit. It's just frustrating enough that you want to push through, and
That's true. That's a good point that you're bringing. I never felt like frustrated. Like I wanna leave this game. Like I wanna throw the controller or something. It never felt like that to me. It felt like it's not like the game is the problem. It felt like I was the problem. Does that make sense? Like it felt like I messed up.
Yeah.
I should have done something better. Like how many times did I die because I thought I could make it through and I didn't heal? You know what I mean? Like. Plenty of times, and I feel like that learning curve was pretty cool in this game too, and just that feeling of like, yeah, it's not the game's fault. Like the game actually is pretty well balanced. So yeah, it's definitely my fault.
Yeah,
yeah,
I totally feel that too. Like it was always me just being an idiot.
Maybe up until the last boss. The last boss was ridiculous. Like how crazy that was.
Yeah.
But it was still fun. It was still a fun one, but it was really crazy.
Well, the cool thing is that at least it kind of forced you to use everything you'd learned up to that point, right? Like you had to actually use a lot of those platforming skills that you learned. You had to use, a variety of your weapons and, be more intelligent about your movement, right?
Yeah.
So I think gameplay overall, they nailed it on the head. I think it's exactly what it needed to be for the most part, except for those couple of things that we mentioned. But I would say those are very small in the grand scheme of what this game is and what it's trying to do. And I appreciate that they didn't try doing anything more than that. I loved, all those little secret things that they had. They weren't everywhere. There weren't a lot of them. sometimes there were things where it's like, secret place, you found a secret, and you're like, where's the secret? And it just ended up being like
just
money or something silly, and you're like, it's just, I just found a secret location, but it doesn't have anything cool secret. So that
that's something that I wish it was better, is the puzzles for the secrets. You know, you find these vaults, and sometimes you'll find, every so often you'll find one that's a little, makes you think twice about it. But most of those vaults are, I feel like it just gets repetitive.
yeah,
But I know that it's just, those are optional things, right? Like, those are things that you're just trying to find if you want to.
yeah,
Because they're just secrets, like you said. That's where you find, well, I don't know how optional that is, because that's where you find the little blueprints for you to go and upgrade your weapons.
you don't have to upgrade your weapon if you don't want.
It's true, but
I mean, we almost upgraded every single weapon, but think about it, you could only upgrade if you have 3 favorite guns. You just upgrade those, right?
that's true. I guess up to each his own, right? To pick what they want. You also have the little figurines you can find. I think that's very cool. Call out to Doom, because in Doom you do the same thing. You can find over different Doom guy figurines on the levels. There's like a mini game, like the little baseball card game mini game. That thought that was cool.
Oh yeah. I almost forgot the mini game. It's nice.
It's just a nice thing that you could just go and waste your time with.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's like the most outstanding mini game, because I didn't find myself going, oh, let's go play that baseball mini game all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because some games have mini games. You're like, I wish this was the whole game.
Yeah, you think about Sea of Stars or
Yeah, like
Queen's
there's
Blood.
some mini games are just that good, but this one it was serviceable. I mean,
it was all right.
but again, it's extra, so it's not like I'm gonna ding the developers for, you know, something that was just a little bit extra on the top, you know, because again, what matters is they nailed the main gameplay loop,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on the story? This is the controversial thing, or at least IGN made it controversial. So, what are your thoughts on the story?
I think the story on a whole is good. I enjoyed most of the detective stuff. I enjoyed like watching him unravel the mystery and trying to connect all these pieces of these what seemed very absurdly separate cases, right? Because you get that initial case of the magician, but then you discover that there's this shrew trafficking issue. And I was telling you earlier, I was like, this is crazy, because there was a moment there where I was wondering about the magician, because we got so sidetracked with these shrews, and then we had to find this other lady, and then we found out she was dead, and then, you know, but it was cool to like watch like the board get filled up and watch all the little things connect and learn how, oh, this person was involved with this, and that's why this happened, and all of that.
OCD brain gotta like see. Like,
I loved seeing that, yeah. And I didn't even mind not being that involved in it, you know? Like, this is some, and we'll get to this with our opinions on IGN's controversial opinions regarding this stuff, but I didn't mind that I didn't do any of the investigative work.
well, it's kind of silly because I feel like we play Alan Wake 2, and I feel like that this game is kind of doing the same thing. I feel like Alan Wake 2 maybe had a little more.
You had to move the picture under the board.
Yeah, but that's it.
I know.
That's literally it. That's all you had to do. Then everything else, it just
Automatically.
because it wouldn't let you put the picture anywhere else in the board. It would
Except
just
for the
let
right
you
location.
Put it where it should be.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm just feel like it's kind of silly to not make that same critique to Alan Wake 2 and do it, and then all of a sudden you're doing a different critique to this. But anyway, I kind of agree with you. Like, it just helps you to see how the story unfolds and how it's all evolving and connecting. And I was telling you earlier that I think overall the story is good, like you said. And what makes it good for me is how, like you said, all these 4 separate subplots, all of a sudden they just connect. And I just feel like, just as a person that probably is a storyteller, it's probably really hard to find how do we connect this assassination to this disappearance to this trafficking problem and to all these things. What do we do to connect all this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do we make them all be linked to each other? And even though in each level that you go that has to do with something, all of a sudden you find that, oh, this is connected to this. And I feel like that we should be giving credit to that kind of storytelling, because it does take work to make that, you know. And I think overall the story is pretty good.
Yeah.
I think it was predictable who it was, or like, you know, what the main problem was.
Well, I would say it follows some tropes for sure.
But yeah.
From any, you know, detective mystery kind of movie or show, but again, that's not the focus. Obviously the story in this game is the vehicle to help you move through the game, right?
And each level.
The plot gives you the reason to be in the locations and in the levels that you're in. And that's what matters most. And I'm glad that the story itself was compelling enough, you know, for me to at least listen to the NPCs and, you know, read the newspapers even.
Yeah.
And all of that stuff to kind of see what's going on.
I mean, at the beginning, it was hard for me to get into it. You know, like, it was hard for me to, like, pay more attention to it, or, like, feel like, oh, this is interesting. I think it was, like, maybe after the first 3 hours of the game that I started feeling like, oh, okay, this is starting to make sense, or, okay, this is getting a little interesting, or we're talking about certain things here that are kind of interesting topics here. And I can agree with you, the tropes. I mean, it's a cartoon game, and I think very purposely follow those tropes. Like, they do it on purpose. You know what I mean? I don't really think they're trying to do anything new here. I just feel like they're on purpose just doing something that we already seen before.
But that's like pretty much a lot of what the game does. It does that kind of thing all the time. It does have a lot of references to other movies, other games. It has a lot of references to cartoons. So, like, it following tropes of all of these other types of things falls right in line with that, you know. It's kind of like a homage to a bunch of fun stuff, you know.
Yeah, you see, it was kind of crazy seeing call-outs to Resident Evil. I was like, what? Makes no sense in this game. But, I mean, I welcomed it, you know. Or you will see call-outs for movies or, you know, other games as well.
Yeah.
Like,
and every time I love that kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, I know that one. Oh, I know that one. You know?
Yeah.
I get excited because I just think it's funny. Like, literally my favorite one was, like, somewhere towards the end, you're fighting a boss battle, and he's like, you were the chosen one. You were supposed to be one of the good guys or something. And I'm like, Star Wars, yes. I don't even like Star Wars that much in general, but that one, I don't know. I just wasn't expecting that reference to or quote to be there, and it was for some reason, you know.
Or, you know, just all the Indiana Jones call-outs, or I wasn't expecting to see. I mean, if you all know, in Resident Evil 2, you go to the police station, right? And there's this area where they were celebrating for Leon. It was a welcome party for Leon. And all of a sudden, in this game, they literally had a welcome Leon sign there as a party. And I'm like, there's no way. And then you see all these other call-outs to Resident Evil, like, what are you buying? You know?
Oh, yeah.
And you mentioned that one to me. It's like, that's crazy.
Yeah. And, I mean, there are a lot of cheese references. I'm just bringing that up now because we are going to talk about
it is very,
the problematic cheese references. Now, will I admit, were half of them really stupid?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Some
absolutely.
of them were so stupid. You're like, oh my gosh, this is kind of dumb. But at the same time, you're like, I can't even blame them. You know,
No.
like, again, they're mice in a mythical mice realm.
Oh, my goodness gracious. It's like from Looney Tunes comedy or your classic Looney Tunes comedy or old cartoon stuff, right?
Yeah. It's just so on the nose, but it's what gives it charm, you know? And I didn't think it ever became annoying. I mean, the amount of times they did mention fondue, eventually you're like, oh my goodness.
Blue cheese.
It's a lot of mention of fondue. I don't know, that one specifically got me a little bit, but everything else I didn't.
Yeah, to me,
mind.
it all makes sense within the world, right? It's just like they're just using these cheese references to all these other things we use. Like, for example, apparently blue cheese is some kind of drug in their world.
Yeah.
And every time they mentioned it, there's this one time where you find this elephant, and apparently this elephant's high on blue cheese. It's just funny.
It is very funny. Yes.
I mean, is it cheesy? Yeah, it's pretty cheesy puns and dialogue sometimes. But I think it makes sense with the world. And like you said, and the most important part is that it gives a charm. And a game needs charm.
yeah.
I think it makes it unique. I mean, how many times... I think it's so funny people... this person complain about the cheesy puns or how cheesy and annoying it is. Have you even heard the dialogue from Kingdom Hearts? Have you even heard how ridiculous any of that sounds or how the characters just the voice acting, how bad it is
Yeah.
in English? I mean, that's why I can't play these games in English, because the voice acting is horrible. I play them in Japanese, and I bet it's probably
You mean your
just as bad.
JRPGs, right?
Yes.
Okay, you just didn't say that.
Yeah, I guess I mentioned Kingdom Hearts at first because the dialogue for those games is kind of cheesy as well, and it can get bad. But I think it's so funny that we let it pass there, and we think these games, we're gonna leave it a masterpiece. But oh no, this one talks about cheese all the time. It's bad.
I mean, let's be honest. Whoever reviewed this game had no clue what they were doing or what they were talking about, because playing the game, I went in with all of these opinions or a different perspective after consuming so much other videos and reviews and opinion pieces on this game, and a lot of them were criticizing obviously IGN's 6 score, which I believe is definitely a ridiculous number. The very lowest I would ever go is 7. Say it's good. I would even probably give it actually an 8. I think it's a great game. I think it was
so too.
really fun. But it's like, again, the reviewer nitpicked things that are weird. Like, again, the cheesy puns, like you said. He talks about there being this dissonance between the story and your actions. And
sorry.
And it's just so like odd, because I'm over here going, the cops are crooked. They're coming after you. The mob is crooked. Literally, this town is like almost like a Gotham almost.
Yeah.
And we're going to get upset that the main character is shooting these people down in a video game based on cartoon mice. Like, there's nothing realistic about this game at all.
No. And I mentioned to you, there's this part where you go underwater, and I was like, I think it's so funny that this guy was picking so much on this part that he didn't even mention the fact that you're in this suit and there's no water physics at all when you're in the water, and then you're drinking these things to heal yourself on top of the helmet.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, with his according to his logic, that doesn't make sense, because it doesn't make sense to do that. I mean, you can go over with any other game that does this kind of thing. I can say, well, in Baldur's Gate 3, it doesn't make sense you have all this inventory stuff. How are you carrying all this? It makes no sense. You don't got enough pockets.
You don't have a big enough backpack
Right.
to carry a barrel?
Yeah, this game's bad because it doesn't have enough. You don't have a backpack or a big enough, I don't know, chest that you're carrying it all over the place.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's ridiculous. I definitely agree that this is the worst take I've ever seen from a review. And it's just so sad because, it's going to impact probably how some other people think. And this is why it's so important that, we do our best to make sure that people understand that that is not the case with this game. This game is so worth the time,
I think it's worth to mention the cheese puns. I mean, I think it's worth saying that. But, I mean, anyone has their opinions about that. I just don't feel like that affects the video game. I just say that because I don't want anyone else to feel like, because the IGN review makes it feel like it's so bad that it's gonna affect your experience with the video game, like with the gameplay aspect of it, and it doesn't. It doesn't.
Well, and the worst part is
you can even skip them. You can skip the dialogue if you want.
Well, and the worst part is for me is that when we were playing the game, I was like, you know what? I am paying so much more attention to this stupid cheese puns because we watched that and this person mentioned that. I was like, well, now I'm paying attention. Like before, I don't think I would even thought twice about it. But now I'm like watching because I got to see how bad it is,
Yeah.
Which it's not. I mean, it's a great game. I think it's a lot of fun. I don't think there's any issues with the story and the gameplay matching. I think it matches pretty well for the most part. I think at the beginning there were a couple times where it didn't feel connected. But I just think that's because you were so early on in the solving the thing stage, so it didn't feel like you knew, right?
Yeah.
Why you were going where, like what the purpose of certain locations was, or maybe I just wasn't paying enough attention early on. But as you go, it all clicks, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah.
The game does tell you like why they're going to the locations they go. Like there's a reason for them. That there's either people that are important that to the story that are part of that location.
Yeah.
Or that's why they went there. So yeah. I mean, I think it's ridiculous, and that's why we're calling it out. And I want to also mention that this person, I will say that it has the right to not like the game. I'm not gonna say that he doesn't have the right to give it a 6. I just felt like the reasoning he gave, like if the reason, I just feel like if the reason why is because you didn't like the gameplay, mostly in this kind of game, like if you don't like the gameplay, then I'm like okay, then that's your opinion. And it's totally valid because I think that's the la creme de la creme of the game. It's the gameplay. And if you didn't like it, then fair. But I just feel like he just picked on something that it's not really valuable to the game or what the game experience is.
Well, and that's the problem when you're basing a game off of what you expect to get out of it. It's very obvious they were expecting to get a very traditional noir experience, like all the old school movies, right? And it's just not that, It's supposed to be more of a comedy dressed as a noir.
Yes.
That's how I would describe the story or the experience outside of gameplay.
I can agree with that. Which is not the usual noir, right? But they just did what they wanted with it, and I think it's great.
Props to them for doing something different. That's how I think.
Yeah.
It gets boring if everything's all the same.
Which was going to take me to the art style, talking about something different. Because I've never seen a game with this kind of art style before. Maybe there has been, but I've never seen one. It's funny because when they announced this game, it was, I think, right after Steamboat Willie went as public domain. And basically that's their inspiration right? It's
Yeah.
Steamboat Willie from Disney. But I really loved, because that's one thing I was worried about. That it was gonna be too much like Mickey Mouse-y looking, like all the characters. But I was very impressed with how they were able to change how they look. Like it's like it's got a unique look to them. But it still reminded me a lot to Flushed Away somehow. But it's just
I still don't quite get that flushed away.
it looks a lot like Flushed Away somehow to me. I don't know why, but some of the characters do, but not all of them. But like how the shrews look, it's kind of unique.
Yeah.
And just how the normal mice look too is it's got its own vibe and style. I feel like, and it's kind of cool. What are your thoughts on the art style?
I mean, I think what makes it stand out more than anything is actually the animation portion of it.
Yeah.
Because, the art style is kind of a borrowed art style that's from a time period, right? Which is why the game's set in that similar time period when these types of cartoons were coming out. But I think what makes it fun is the animation, right? Like, you look at the animation of just the guns, and they are so bouncy. Like, that's the only way I can explain it.
I love
it's
that.
like you're loading your gun and it's like wobbling in a way that a gun shouldn't wobble. But that's what made these types of old school cartoons so unique, right? Is that they were very, very animated. They were extremely,
Exaggerate movement.
exaggerated in their movement. Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's what made it the most fun, is watching like the items move in, their fun little ways. Some of it obviously was reminiscent of Cuphead as well, which obviously also took a lot of inspiration from the same era of cartoons. So I enjoyed that a lot. The art style, it's nice,
I loved it too. Overall, there is a couple things that I felt a little it affected me just a little bit, not too much. It's very nitpicky. You might think it's very nitpicky. I really felt like it was sometimes hard to see secrets or see where to go because of the art style itself. Like, because of the black and white. I guess not the art style, but like the color. Just the black and white. Sometimes it was hard to see objects or see what's what.
I don't think so.
Most of the time it was fine because you could see it glowing. But I feel like there were times that and like I said, it might be my own stupidity, but sometimes I felt that way. And one more thing, which is also nitpicky, I think it's kind of weird, the 3D with the 2D, how they have it.
Oh yeah.
I kind of wished, which I mean that takes a lot more work, so I mean it's fine. I mean the game still looks amazing, but I think it would have been cool if the whole game was 2D animated.
Yeah, that
would have been a lot of work. I know. So I get why they did 3D for the game they did, because a game like Cuphead, for example, is different. It's a 2D game completely, like 2D style. Yeah. You're not doing the 3D perspective. They had to do a 3D perspective here, so I totally get they had to use the 3D assets and not do a 2D animation. So.
Yeah, which is why that confuses me, that you felt like you couldn't see things, because I thought it was very obvious the two different art styles for the most part. Like,
yeah,
doors that you could go through had a very unique style compared to doors you couldn't go through. I don't know if you noticed that, but they were 2D drawn, and the ones you could not go through were all 3D.
Well, how many times did you went because you thought it was a baseball card there that you can pick up, but it wasn't. It was just a card.
Well, yeah, but that's not an art style problem. That's just because
of the color.
Cards are flat already. Either way.
Well, I just felt like the color for me made it a little harder. A little bit. Like I said, it could be just my little stupidity talking here.
I think so, but
that's
we'll
fine.
Just move on from that.
Let's just move on with that. It's just a little thing. It's not going to affect my opinion with the game.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think overall, we really think this game was amazing. So I think we're going to wrap it up here unless you have any more thoughts with this game.
No, I would recommend that Anybody who likes, obviously, this style of game, the boomer shooters, first-person shooters, will definitely enjoy it. Obviously, there might be people out there that think the art style is, bleh or whatever, may not enjoy it, and for that reason, not pick it. But I think overall, very solid game, very fun. I'm glad we played it, and we're able to, have this experience over this last week, getting through the whole thing. So
Yeah, I think I totally recommend this game too as well to a lot of people that like shooters and that like Doom. I think that this game is pretty good. Or if you want to get into games like that, I think this is a very good, solid choice. I really recommend it to anyone that likes the art style as well. And yeah, I think it's a one-up game and recommend here. Yeah, totally recommend. So thank you guys for watching and listening. We'll see you guys next time. Please leave a like, subscribe. Peace.